Hi guys, it's Roger here. Just want to open this up with saying that I am going to start a new little series here that we're going to be including on the Technology in the Classroom Google Classroom. It's going to be a series of quick little how-to videos in hopes that it opens up the door for you to do some new things in your classroom with the Chromebooks. My goal is to keep these under 15 minutes. So that you have a quick little tutorial that you don't have to spend a lot of time working with it, and that you can take away something that, like I said, is of value that can be used immediately in your classroom. So with that being said, let's get started. Our first one today is going to be on an interactive poster using Google Slides. Now, many of you are probably familiar with Google Slides, but one of the things that I've found as I've been looking for some new things to use in the classroom is the ability to use Google Slides to create some interactive documents, to use it less as a presentation software or presentation tool and more as a creative tool. And hopefully that as you see kind of what I'm going to do today with this, it'll maybe spark some interest and maybe spark some creativity in you in different ways that you can use Google Slides. One other thing I think you're really going to like about it is that it does, it resembles how many of you probably used Microsoft Word in the past to create worksheets or documents that you created for your students. It gives you a lot of the same features in terms of graphics, adding backgrounds, adding borders, putting more of the pizzazz, for lack of a better word, into your documents. So that being said, let's get started. For this project, the prep that I've done, I did look up the 5th grade curriculum, and here we're looking at the land and people before Columbus. I have gone through and looked up some Native American culture websites, and then obviously I have Google Slides ready to go. So with that, let's get started. So I'm going to start here with a blank document. And before I begin, I do want to set this up so it can be used more as a document and less like a presentation. So a few things I'm going to do here. One, I'm going to get rid of these themes because themes are not going to apply here. Second thing I want to do is get rid of these text boxes. They are not going to be needed. And to get rid of the text boxes, all you need to do is move your cursor over the outside edge, click on it once, and then hit the delete button on your keyboard. Okay, now as I go through this, I do want to let you know that I'm not working from a script. I do want this to be more of a, a raw look at what I would go through as I'm creating these. So expect mistakes. Expect me to stutter or get hung up with a word here and there. But I just think that makes it more real so you know exactly really what goes on when I'm preparing something like this. Okay, now from here, there's one other thing we have to do, and that's to set up our page. Right now we've got it set up to present on a computer, but I want to make this something that the students can print, that you as a teacher can print. I hear one of the things I hear a lot as I move around the district is how can we publish some of these things? So what I would like to do at this point is come up here to File, and I'm going to come down here to Page Setup. You can see we're set up for a widescreen, but if I click on this menu, I have the option to do a custom page setup. And I'm going to change this to a letter size paper. So I'm going to make this 11 by 8.5. And this is going to give me a standard letter size piece of paper. Okay, at this point, we're ready to go and we're ready to build. So let's get started. Obviously, the first thing we want to do is add a title. So I'm going to just start here with this text box. And when I click on it, I can come over to my document and I can draw me a little text box. Okay, and this is going to be, we're going to title it Native Americans. Whoops, sorry about the typos. Man. And we're going to call it Native Americans Before Columbus. Now this is a title, so let's change the font. So I'm going to click and highlight. I'm going to change the size here to something a little larger. Let's make it 24. I also want to align this to the center. That's more. So here's my align tool. I'm going to click on there and align it. And I'm going to maybe bold it. Maybe I even want to change the font a little bit to make it stand out a little more. Now once I've got that, I just clicked off it. I can also come back here and I can move it around. You can see my cursor here turns into these 4 little arrows. That allows me to click and drag it. You'll also notice I've got this little circle, and this allows me to rotate some things. Now from here I can move it around to where I want it, and now I've got a nice little title cornered. Just makes it look a little more artistic. Okay. Now at this point we got to ask ourselves, what is it that we want to have on this poster? So maybe you want the students to add some facts that they have learned about the Native Americans. So I'm going to take a text box here, and I'm going to draw it out, and I'm just going to title this here, and it's going to be 5 things that I know. And I also want to let the students know that I want this to be a bulleted list. So I'm going to hit enter and go to my next line, and I am going to come up here to my bullet tool, and I'm going to click on it. This way, once the students start working, it is automatically going to be a bulleted list for them. Now you can by all means teach your students how to create bulleted lists, which many of them probably already do know. But if you as a teacher want to have a little more control over how this looks, that would be one way to do it. Okay, now at this point, I've got some text, I've got my title. Let's say I want to add a picture to add a little more meaning to this. So I'm going to add a picture. But first, I want to add something different to this picture. So I'm going to take a shape. And when we look at our shape tool, we can see that there's all these different shapes. And I'm going to choose this one that looks like a picture frame. And I am simply going to draw it out. Now when I do have this picture frame, you'll notice it's kind of a boring, just a basic gray color. I can come over here and do 2 things with it. I've got this fill color. So I can change the color of this frame to whatever I want it to be. Let's say I want it to be a little, kind of like a matted pink here. I can also change the line color. So let's say I want it to be a little darker. Maybe I even want it to be a little lighter. I can also change the weight of the line, making it thicker to make that frame stand out just a little more. Now I also need to add the picture. So I'm going to come up here to Insert. I'm going to insert an image. And I'm going to go over here to Search. Now Search is going to allow me to find images that are royalty free, so I do not have to I don't have to worry about copyrights or anything like that. And I'm going to do this on Navajo traditions. Oops. And I'm going to search it. And when they start popping up here, I'm going to look through one that I think represents what I've learned. And let's say I want it to be about pottery. So I'm going to double click here. Now the picture is going to be quite large, obviously. So we're going to need to resize it. So I'm going to grab one of these corners here and pull it down to resize it. And then I'm going to come over here and place it into my frame. Now a few things you're going to notice. One, these little red lines help us align our picture. So this is going to be aligned vertically, and if I move it right to left, when I get those 2 lines intersecting, it tells me it is right in the middle. So I can let that go. Now if I do want to fill out the frame, there's a few things I can do. One, I can click on the frame, and I can use this little tool here, which will change the bevel size of my frame. So let's say I get that there, but then I also want to fill in the left and right hand side. So I can click on my image, and I can drag it out. Sometimes it distorts the image, sometimes it still looks fine, but now I've got a picture in the frame. Okay, now let's say I want to add one more text, but I don't want it to be just a text box. So I'm going to go up here to my shapes again. We've got our shapes, we've got arrows, we've got callouts. Callouts would be a great way if you want to have somebody saying something, or maybe you want to add some narration to a picture. For this purpose though, I'm going to add the scroll, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to draw my scroll. When I draw my scroll, you'll also notice I do have that little tool here. It's kind of like the little yellow diamond, which does allow me to change the size of the scroll. And just like with the frame, I can also change the colors. So let's say I want the background to be a little more white. I do want to change some of these things here. Now I've got my scroll. Now what is it that you want in the scroll for your students to write would be the next question you have to ask. If I click on here, double click, you'll notice my cursor does appear. So let's say I want them to do the North American tribes. But I want this to be a title. So I'm going to take this and highlight it. And I'm going to come up here to my Align tool again. And I want this to be in the middle. But I also want it to be at the top. I don't want it to be stuck there in the middle. So I'm going to come over here, and this allows me to align it to the top, the middle, or the bottom. And I'm going to move it all the way up to the top. And then just like before, I'm going to change some things here so I can make this look more like a title. Whoops. Maybe bold it a bit. And then we can have the students list their tribes. Again, if you want to do this for them, you can hit enter. Maybe you want them to do a bulleted list, maybe a numbered list. Maybe you want this to align on the left-hand side. It's really up to you, but I do recommend that you set it up so that it fits what you are hoping for from the project. Or teach the students, again, how to do these things so they can make it more personal to them. Okay, now the last are two more things I want to show you. One would be a video, which is one of the major benefits of using slides. So I can come up here to Insert, and I can add a video. And again, I've been focusing on the Navajo tribe, so I'm going to do Navajo traditions. And I'm going to get some videos here, and this is cooking fry bread. So I'm going to double click on that. It's going to insert the video for me. Again, I can resize it, and I can click and drag. So again, those align tools help me line it up. So now I've got that going for me as well. So now I've got a title, a picture, I've got the tribes, 5 things that I know, and a video showing some of the traditions of the Navajo tribes. Now the last thing I want to show you is, what if you want to add, there's one thing really missing here, and it's, for me, it's just the visual pop. So I'm going to come up here to the background. I'm going to change my background. I'm not going to change the color, but I'm actually going to choose an image. Now again, the neat thing about working with slides is I do have this search tool where I don't have to worry about copyrights. And I had done some research here, and the Navajo hut, or the Hogan. So I'm going to choose this one here and double click it. I am going to hit done, and now I've got a nice little background. So I've got the background, I've got everything set up. The only thing left to do here would be to either add it to a Google Classroom, or you could share it with your students, but again, the easiest way to do that is through the Google Classroom. And the other thing you would have or need to do at this point would be to print, which is simply going up to our little print button, clicking print, and then choosing the printer to print from. Okay, if you have any questions on how to do something like this, by all means, please email me. And I can give you any other information you want. I am going to provide a template like this for you so that you can kind of get an idea of what you're looking at. And like I said, if you have any questions at any time, feel free to email. Thank you very much.